Beyond the grades. Measuring teachers' efficacy for the psychosocial grooming of students. Education is an abstract phenomenon which combines the biological, physiological, sociological, psychological, and philosophical aspects to formulate a wholesome definition of education, according to which, education is the eternal process of superior adjustment of a physically and mentally developed, free, conscious human being to God, as manifested in the intellectual, emotional, and volitional environment of man. Education is a deliberate, systematic, and sustained effort which transmits, evokes, or acquires knowledge, attitudes, values, skills, or sensibilities, along with any outcomes of that effort. At our times, education is considered both a readily instruction and a process of lifelong development of personality. Education is both a formal and informal lifelong process of learning. Scholars have sufficiently debated on the objectives of education and have covered a wide variety of functions of education. Education helps in discovering truth, enhancing intellect, realizing one's potentials, being able for judgment and action, getting wise and respectful learning, being able to practice knowledge in practical situations, bringing positive change in life, developing hope for future, being able to help others, achieving the goals of life, getting ready for social roles, preserving the already established customs, abolishing social evils, ensuring progress in the economy, establishing public goods, bringing a positive change in the society, and refining the society. Many scientists have theorized the process and methods of education. Behaviorists like John B. Watson and B. F. Skinner believed that the association between stimulus and response causes change in human behavior. Rewards and punishments are important in learning. Behaviors with positive incentives are adapted, and behaviors with unpleasant consequences are avoided. Ivan Pavlov's classical conditioning theory marks that learning can also occur because of stimulus getting associated with another stimulus that already produces a natural behavior, to result in exact same natural response. Cognitive theories give importance to the process of acquiring knowledge that entails internal coding, that is how information is received, organized, stored, and retrieved in the learner's mind. Constructivism implies that the examination of actual experience is necessary to create meaning and that knowledge is not directly transferred in the memories, rather personal interpretation of the world is contextual, based on individual experience and interaction, forming a link with the knowledge rooted in it. Adult Learning Theory by Malcolm Knowles caters the 7 guidelines about teaching learners who are self-directed, according to which, a teacher should provide a learner an effective learning climate to express comfortably, involve him in module planning, make him self-reliant to trigger internal motivation, make him responsible to devise his own learning objectives, involve him to formulate goal achieving, support him in carrying out their plans, and make him able for self-evaluation of learning. Vygotsky's socio-cultural theory signifies the macro-social, micro-social, cultural, and lingual influences on cognitive development and learning of an individual, where he acts as an apprentice who requires guidance, support and facilitation from the learning environment that includes teachers, friends, and peers. Thorndike's connectionism theory focuses on formation and reflection of stimulus-response associations in the behavior of an individual, and implies that once this relation is mastered, the person shall succeed. According to Thorndike's 3 chief laws, physical and psychological. Readiness, law of readiness, frequent trial and practice, law of use and repetition of task upon facing satisfaction from an action, law of effect, help in strengthening the memory which results in a stronger behavioral response. Associationism suggests that the complex ideas tend to originate from a combination and association of primitive ideas which represent all the knowledge, and are acquired from our senses. Social learning theory by Albert Bandura states that learning occurs by observing others, and this learning is central to the behavioral, personal, and environmental factors, all of which determine, influence, and reciprocate each other. Albert Bandura's concept of modeling suggested that children observe and learn from the favorable and unfavorable responses around them, which brings variety in their behavior. However, exhibition of this learning in behavior is not necessary. Experiential learning theory (ELT) focuses on experience as the chief source of learning, where knowledge is constructed in a cyclical process of goal setting, thoughtfulness, organization, investigation, reflection, observation, and revision. This ultimately engages a learner in the cognitive, affective, and physical aspects of learning, where he experiences a continuum of apprehension-comprehension, to perceive the experience, and intention-extension, to transform experiences. Bloom's taxonomy by Benjamin Bloom caters cognitive skills and learning objectives having cognitive, affective, and psychomotor as three main domains, all of which are set in a hierarchical model from simple to complex, by the educators for their students. The revision of cognitive framework brought structural, terminological and emphatic changes which enhanced its version from one to two-dimensional, the main focus of which revolves around intellectual abilities with 6 main levels named as remembering, retrieval, recognition, recall of relevant knowledge from long-term memory, understanding, meaning construction, applying, application, analyzing, to distinguish, evaluating, justifying or decision-making, and creating new product. Affective domain is comprised of 5 subcategories which are receiving, realization of one's feelings, emotions, responding, active participation of learner, valuing, ability to visualizing and expressing the worth of something, organizing, prioritizing, and characterizing, internalization of values, and this domain deals with feelings, attitudes, and emotions. The psychomotor domain focuses on the physical functions, reflex actions, motor coordination, and the interpretive movements. The process of education is imparted by teachers. Teachers serve as the drivers for education. Teachers are the most dedicated and respectful factors of human society. UNESCO defines teacher as a person who is inquisitive, passionate, outgoing, lovable, and comprehensive about his pupils, that is a complete person from the inside. 4 prototypes that depict an ideal teacher are acculturation, having broad knowledge with the ability to transmit; socialization, spreading and maintaining social norms and order; individualization, mentoring each student; and expertise in his discipline. Behavioral theories suggest that a teacher should be able to identify and arrange cues and conditions with no initial triggering power and should enable the students to gain reinforcement. Cognitivism proposes that it is the duty of a teacher to acknowledge difference in prior experiences of learners to frame effective practices which shall help in efficient assimilation, accommodation, and organization of the new information by learner. According to the constructivist pedagogy, the new teachers are being asked to play the role to actively engage students and use their ideas to help them create more accurate understanding rather than just being a dispenser of knowledge. It also suggests that a teacher should teach construction of the meaning and its effective monitoring, evaluation, and upgradation by strategizing practices for the learner to experience the authentic and relevant context. Having a certificate or a degree does not necessarily represent the effectiveness of a teacher in raising students. It is the effective actions of a teacher which can make a positive impact on a student's life. Every teacher cannot fit in a complete role of a teacher as a mentor. Some teachers are not thoughtful to create a close relationship with students and nurture them, and some are not capable and willing to mask the role of a teacher. The effectiveness of teachers is usually regarded only through the academic growth of students. The effectiveness of a teacher, however, involves several psychosocial aspects beyond the academic grades of students. An effective teacher must possess some personal qualities which enable him to feel and behave as a mentor, a pedagogue, an educator, an evaluator, a guardian, an advisor, an innovator, a worker, a molder of minds, a civil servant, a counselor, a therapist, or even a parent who makes the students independent and self-regulated learners by using a variety of methods and strategies. Moreover, the effective teacher changes himself according to new situations and always looks forward to his personal and professional growth as well. Teacher's efficacy is the perception of a teacher about his capabilities which intend to bring the desired outcomes in learning and student engagement. Teacher's efficacy positively affects teacher's performance. Researchers have tried to measure teacher's efficacy by applying different theoretical grounds. Teacher Self-Efficacy Scale, developed by Bandura, was a self-respondent scale for teachers to measure their efficacy in teaching. The scale investigated 7 factors, namely efficacy to influence decision-making, efficacy to influence school resources, instructional efficacy, disciplinary efficacy, efficacy to enlist parental involvement, efficacy to enlist community involvement, and efficacy to create positive school environment. Teacher Effectiveness Scale in Higher Education and Evaluation of Teaching Competencies Scale intend to measure teachers' effectiveness through students' responses. Self-assessment instrument for teacher evaluation is a self-assessment scale for teachers and measures teachers' efficacy through 5 standards of teacher effectiveness, namely subject matter knowledge, instructional planning and strategies, assessment, learning environment and effective communication. Standard Performance Continuum observes and assesses performance of teachers on 5 standards, which are joint productive activity, language and literacy development, contextualization, challenging activities, and instructional conversation. Efficacy Scale for Teachers assesses if a basic education teacher of elementary and high school level considers himself competent to execute behavior for the desired outcome. Teacher Self-Efficacy Scale measures 7 dimensions, namely community environment efficacy, school environment efficacy, classroom environment efficacy, problem-solving efficacy, linkage efficacy, role model efficacy, and coping efficacy. Teachers Job Performance Scale evaluates teachers' performance at workplace and can also be used to identify their strengths, weaknesses, performance at individual and organizational level. Dr. Sukoon was inclined to develop a new scale to measure teachers' efficacy to analyze the role of a teacher in character building and psychosocial grooming of the students. After reviewing plenty of earlier literature on educational objectives and the desired characteristics of a teacher, Dr. Sukoon defined the efficacy of a teacher as a teacher's ability to improve students' cognitive functioning and humanistic values. The cognitive functioning includes motivation, attention, intelligence, communication, memory, and creativity. The humanistic values include respect, sympathy, honesty, tolerance, courage, gratitude, humor, social intelligence, and happiness. These cognitive abilities and humanistic values can be regarded as the crux which the researchers retrieved from several educational theories. The scale to be developed in this regard was aimed to have 2 unique features which were not incorporated in the earlier scales measuring teachers' efficacy. The first unique feature of the scale was to develop 2 parallel versions of the same scale, namely a teacher's version and a student's version. This feature was aimed at providing more valid measurement of a teacher's efficacy by taking opinions of the teacher and the students both, at the same time. The second unique feature of the scale was to develop such a scale which could gather initial data in qualitative form and could later be able to quantify it in a pure statistical fashion. The second feature, like the first one, also intended to get a more valid measurement of a teacher's efficacy. The scale was thought to reveal more valid information about teachers' efficacy by applying these unique features. The study conducted in this regard involved 206 participants from Pakistan. Among them, 147 were teachers and 59 were students. The teachers included 34 male teachers, 113 female teachers, 61 unmarried, 86 married, 77 teaching in schools, 30 teaching in colleges, 40 teaching in universities, 91 teaching in public sector, and 56 teaching in private sector. Their age ranged between 22 to 56 years with a mean of 32 years. The educational qualification of the teachers ranged from 14 years of education to PhD with a mean educational qualification of 16 years education. The students were all unmarried, included 40 males, 19 females, 10 studying in colleges, 49 studying in universities, 31 studying in public sector, and 28 studying in private sector. Their age ranged between 16 to 27 years with a mean of 22 years. All the students had acquired 14 years of education and were enrolled in different master-level programs. The teachers and the students both were included in the study based on convenient sampling technique. A new scale, Qualiquant Teachers Efficacy Scale, QTES, was developed and validated in the current study. The QTES comprised of 30 items and 2 versions, namely the teacher's version and the student's version. Each version had 15 items in English. Each item was related to a cognitive functioning, motivation, attention, intelligence, communication, memory, and creativity, or a humanistic value, respect, sympathy, honesty, tolerance, courage, gratitude, humor, social intelligence, and happiness. Each item of the scale required the respondent to give up to 5 open-ended responses which were further quantified. The exploratory factor analysis of the scale established its reliability and validity. The study revealed that the understudied teachers had 51.76% teachers' efficacy as perceived by the teachers themselves. The level of teachers' efficacy was 25.65% as perceived by the students. This reflected a significant difference in the perception of teachers and students about teachers' efficacy. Teachers perceived teachers' efficacy on a significantly higher degree than students. In other words, students perceived teachers' efficacy significantly lower than the levels perceived by the teachers. Here came the beauty of the scale through which the researchers could be able to measure teachers' efficacy by the combined version of the two scales. The level of teachers' efficacy among the understudied teachers was, therefore, 44.28% as seen by combining the versions of teachers and students. The findings of the current study revealed that the level of teachers' efficacy in Pakistan is just 44.28%, which is quite unsatisfactory. These findings can be related to the poor educational system emplaced in the country. As discussed earlier, both learning and teaching require adequate motivation and satisfactory psychosocial health. Pakistanis, in general, have several mental health-related issues which may hinder in the cognitive processes essential for learning and teaching. The moral status of Pakistanis is also not splendid due to several psychosocial factors such as poverty and corruption. Pakistani teachers, besides other professionals, also possess severe levels of depression, anxiety, and stress. Job satisfaction of the teachers is another important factor which may reduce teachers' efficacy. The findings also revealed that students view the efficacy of a teacher significantly lower than it is perceived by the teacher himself. Several researchers have gathered students' viewpoints regarding the effectiveness of a teacher. Students expect their teachers to work as trainers, have enthusiasm to teach, have creativity, keep pace and humor in class, challenge students, discover interests in students, know good grammar, be capable of on-the-spot answering, keep question-answer time at the end of a class, reflect unbiasedness and equality by leaving emotions aside, and be encouraging. Teachers' personality traits such as external appearance, kindness, friendliness, respect for students, and sense of humor are also considered important by students. The findings of the study by Dr. Sukoon, apart from the usage of the newly developed scale, would sensitize the stakeholders to analyze the levels of teachers' efficacy in the country more deeply and plan for the improvements required. Thanks for listening. To read the entire paper, kindly visit www.dersakoon.info.